You know, some derby results just hit different. And this one? Whoa. We're talking about Arsenal's massive 4-1 demolition of Spurs. But honestly, the scoreline doesn't even tell the whole story. This is really about one man, Eberechi Eze, and a performance that's going straight into the history books. All right, so let's get right into it, because the drama here started way before the first whistle even blew. You see, Eberechi Eze, the guy who became Arsenal's hero, well, he was this close to signing for Tottenham just this past summer. Can you believe that? It's a total what-if moment, and boy did Spurs get a front-row seat to see exactly what they missed out on. Ouch. So what's the magic number from this game? It's 3. A hat trick is always a big deal, right? But to get one in your first ever North London derby, that's legendary stuff. And you know, for Eze, this was more than just goals. It was something personal, a prayer that was, believe it or not, answered on the pitch. Okay, before we even get to the goals themselves, we've got to set the stage. We need to understand just how high the stakes were. This wasn't your average scrap for local bragging rights. Nope, this game had massive implications for the title race. So let's take a look at what was on the line for both sides. So for Arsenal, this was a huge opportunity. Their rivals had slipped up, and a win here meant they could go 6 points clear at the top of the table. A massive gap. But, and this is a big but, Spurs were walking into the Emirates with this incredible record. They hadn't lost a single away game all season. So you've got this classic unstoppable force versus immovable object scenario. The tension was just incredible. So, how did it all unfold on the pitch? Well, the first half was this real tactical chess match. But you know what? It was a match where Arsenal pretty much figured out all the right moves right away. Spurs came with a defensive game plan, and it completely backfired on them. Okay, so here's the tactical breakdown. Thomas Frank, the Spurs manager, he had a very clear idea. Let's be compact, let's frustrate them. He set them up in this 3-4-2-1, which, let's be honest, quickly turned into a back five. Basically a wall. But Mikel Arteta and Arsenal, they were totally ready for it. They stuck with their fluid 4-2-3-1, stayed patient, kept pushing, and they were just waiting for their moment to pick the lock. And they found it. After just pressing and pressing, the breakthrough finally came in the 36th minute. A beautiful pass from Mikel Merino found Leandro Trossard, and bang, 1-0. Then, just 5 minutes after that, the man of the hour made his entrance. Eberechi Eze gets the ball, does this little bit of magic, some incredible footwork, and just smashes it into the bottom corner. 2-0 at halftime. Arsenal were absolutely cruising. Right, so if the first half was all about Arsenal's complete control, the second half, well, that was just a one-man show. It was a coronation. Welcome to the Eberechi Eze show. This is where a really good performance became something truly legendary. Just look at this timeline. It tells you everything you need to know about how wild that second half was. You have to imagine Thomas Frank in the dressing room making all these changes, giving this big speech, and whatever he said was just blown to pieces almost immediately. Eze scores right away. Spurs get one back with a moment of pure brilliance. But it didn't matter. Eze comes back, finishes his hat trick, and that was that. Game over. And get this, we're talking about a crazy 10-minute spell here. The second half whistle blows, and just 35 seconds later, Eze curls in an absolute beauty. You're thinking, okay, it's over, 3-0. But then, completely out of the blue, Richarlison pulls a rabbit out of the hat. He spots David Raya off his line and hits this unbelievable lob from like 35 yards out. And for a second, just for a tiny second, you're thinking, wait, do Spurs have a chance here? But no, this was always going to be Eze's day. He pops up again, another fantastic finish, and that's it. The hat trick is complete, the victory is sealed, and his name is in the history books. And you just have to listen to what he said afterwards. You can just feel how much it meant to him. This was more than just a football match. It was a dream coming true right in front of our eyes. And to really get how big this was, you need to know 2 things. First off, this was his first ever hat trick in his entire senior career. To get your first one in a game like this, wow. And second, he's only the 4th, just the 4th Arsenal player in history to score a hat trick against Spurs. To do that on that stage, it's just incredible. Absolutely incredible. All right, let's get into the numbers. Because sometimes the stats tell a story that's even clearer than the scoreline. And in this case, it's a brutal story of total domination meets total despair. Okay, look at this. Just look at the total shots. Forget the goals for a second. Arsenal had 17 shots. 17. And Spurs, they managed a grand total of 3. All game. That is just a staggering difference. It perfectly shows you how ridiculously one-sided this match was. And it gets even worse for Spurs when you look at the quality of those chances, the expected goals, or XG. Arsenal's was 1.88, which means they created good, solid opportunities. Tottenham's was 0.07. That is it's almost nothing. To put that into perspective for you, that was the lowest XG that any team in the entire Premier League had managed in a game all season. They were completely and utterly toothless. And the words from the two managers after the game really summed it all up. You had Mikel Arteta just beaming, calling it a special day, talking about his team's hunger. And on the flip side, you had Thomas Frank, who was just crushed. He called it extremely painful and even apologized directly to the fans who had to watch it. You can't get two more different reactions, can you? So after a beatdown like that, what happens next? What does a result this big really mean for the rest of the season? Let's take a look at the fallout, because this derby demolition really shook things up. And wow, the consequences are pretty clear, aren't they? After those 90 minutes, Arsenal are sitting comfortably at the top of the table. They've got a 6-point cushion over Chelsea now. As for Spurs, well, that proud unbeaten away record is gone, completely shattered. And they've dropped all the way down to 9th. You can bet there are some serious questions being asked over there. So, let's wrap up the key takeaways here. Arsenal, they've just cemented themselves as the team to beat for the title. Tottenham, that early season toughness they had on the road is officially a thing of the past. And maybe most importantly, the pressure is now seriously on Thomas Frank to figure out where the goals are going to come from, a problem that their biggest rivals just exposed for the whole world to see. And so that leaves us with the million-dollar question, doesn't it? Arsenal has all the momentum, they've got that 6-point lead, and they have a player in Eberechi Eze who is playing out of his mind, producing actual magic on the pitch. You have to think the rest of the league is looking at them and wondering, can anyone actually stop this title charge? I guess we'll have to wait and see.